welcome to the podcast, Ryan Jenner.
Thanks for having me, mate.
It's been like 25 years or so. It's stupid since I've seen you. So just to kind of, to summarize, I think this conversation, cocaine, business, serious addiction, potential suicide, and all loads of other bits in between around running nightclubs. Yeah. I mean, mate, your stories and obviously tragedy within your life as well. So I think just for the listeners, tell us what you're doing today. Tell us where you're at.
Today I live my life clean and sober. I know we're going to touch on that later about the addiction that I fell into. But yeah, today I'm just present. Do you know what I mean? I'm present with all my family, present with my daughter. I've got my cleaning company that I'm
Shine Assured,
yeah. I've got that. That's been my baby since 2005. The last year's been like a reset year for me. Do you know what I mean? There's been a big journey that there's a lot of people out there that still close to me that don't really know the truth. Do you know what I mean? And today I'm just at peace, mate. Do you know what I mean? I've found recovery. I've found people in recovery that changed my life, changed my family's life, and I'm just back focused on work and getting back to where I was, really. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny because that wasn't the answer that I extended you to the other night, but it was perfect. You know, when you ask a question, you get a different answer.
Yeah.
Mate, perfect. Where are you at today? Nothing to do with, business or anything like that. It's like, I'm at peace. It's a brilliant answer. So, okay, let's just jump straight in, mate. Talk to us about growing up. Talk to us about young Ryan.
So, growing up, I lived with my mum and dad, obviously, and my two brothers. My dad was married before, and he had a little girl, my sister. Obviously, then my mum was married before, and my two brothers. My mum and dad got together, and I come along. I lived in my house. My mum, dad, and two brothers. And it was just fun. Do you know what I mean? I didn't really know my sister till later on in life. I met her a couple of times, but I didn't really know my sister properly till later on in life. And I grew up on a council estate in Stevenage, but it was a happy home. Do you know what I mean? It was loads of fun. I had my two brothers, and it was just great times growing up, playing out in the street with all my friends. And then I lost my mum at a young age.
How old were you, mate?
I was 7. And I then moved in with my nan and granddad, my mum's mum and dad. Because the way my dad's work was, he worked nights, and so I'd see him on a Wednesday and I'd stay with him all weekend and stuff. So I grew up really from the age of 7 with my nan and granddad, you know what I mean? And that was my life. I didn't know any different. You know what I mean? Everyone rallied around me, kept me busy. I know now with things that have happened as I've got older, I didn't deal with it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? But I think back then, no one really knew how to deal with it. Everyone just kept me busy. And I love my sport, love my football. I was quite talented at football. And I think that kept me going, especially when I got to 14, obviously, me and my dad was inseparable. I worshipped him. It was like he was the best man in my life. But then at 14, he died.
Can I ask just how did they both die? If you don't mind?
So my mum, she was complaining. I remember I'd be like playing around, making loads of noise and shit. So there was a period of time where she was like always on the sofa, trying to get peace and quiet. She complained about headaches, and she died. She had a brain hemorrhage. All I remember was went out one evening. My brothers were at home with me, and I went to bed, and it was dark outside. I probably thought it was 2 a.m, but it was dark. To me, it was late. My mum come home from being out of her friends, and she was just screaming in pain, and the next thing you know, she was just in hospital. It felt like forever, but we'd go and visit her in hospital, and she ended up on a life support machine, and my nan, God bless her, in the end, I had to turn the life support machine off. Yeah, so.
Sorry to hear that, mate.
And my dad, listen, he was a typical lad, do you know what I mean? He'd meet up with his friends every Saturday. It was like the thing they'd done. I would go as well, but he'd have a good few drinks, and he never lived the healthiest lifestyle, do you know what I mean? But he was driving home from work one day, and he had a problem with his leg. Something to do with I'll be honest, but I still don't know the whole. He had a problem with his leg, and it basically led to the blood and everything. He had a heart attack on his way home. Driving home from work one day, and I stayed at my mate's house that night, and I just remember waking up one morning, all the police there, and I just remember sitting with his sister, and I actually remember I remember looking out the window, seeing loads of police, and then saying to my mate, I think something's happened to me, Nan. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't expect, do you know what I mean? And yeah, I just don't know really. It was just very, they told me my dad died and had passed away in his car, and found out then later on it was a heart attack, and it was hard. Again though, I remember everyone just keeping me busy. I didn't talk to anyone about it. Even later on in life now, I've been with my wife 11 years, married 2 years, been with her 11 years. Prior to recovery, I reckon I've spoken to her about my parents less than 5 times. Since I've been in recovery, I can speak about my parents every day now. Do you know what I mean? So my dad passed away, and like I say, I was from up to 14. I was playing football. I was at Luton. I was at Luton Town at the time. My dad always wanted me to be a footballer. Yeah, you know what I mean, and it's what I wanted to do. When he passed away, I wanted to do it for him. Yeah. So I did work hard at trying to get that. I remember when I was 12, 13 years old, so just before he passed away. I was at Luton Town at the time, and I was going into school, and all my mates were playing with the Sunday League team. And I can't remember who was playing that day, and I had to go and play the match for Luton, and I was just bored of going in on a Monday and saying, we drew 1-1 with Millwall. And all my mates are saying, we beat Electric City Eagles 7-0, I scored 3. And I remember saying to him, Dad, I don't want to play anymore. And he's like, nah, son, do you know what I mean? You got them. And I didn't. I think I went to play that game, and then I remember Luton Town sitting with Paul Lowe, his name is. Do you know Paul Lowe? No, I think he's at Southampton. The last I heard, he was at Southampton. And I remember him calling my dad for us going to a meeting on the following Tuesday when we would have had training. And I was 12, 13 years old, and I remember he offered my dad, he always said to my dad that they would offer me my scholarship at 13 and a 1-year pro, and I was 13. And I remember thinking, if they're offering me that now, what could I get elsewhere? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I just wanted to play with my friends. Yeah. So I always thought I thought I'd be a footballer, you know, and I believe that when losing my mum and my dad, I believe football saved me from addiction at a young age. Right, okay. Do you know what I mean? I think it was there. Yeah, I think I was an addict. I was addicted to trying to become a footballer. Although I left for those 2 seasons and played with my friends, I then signed for Norwich. Yeah. And I dedicated the first part of my life to try and be a footballer. Do you know what I mean? And it didn't quite work out. I ended up playing football part-time. But then when I fell into playing part-time football and setting up Shine Assured, all my friends would go out on a Friday night or a Saturday, I was just knocking on doors. Yeah. I was addicted to it. Do you know what I mean? If I knocked on a house, and back then I might have been charging a tenner to clean someone's house, as soon as I've walked off that drive and they said, yeah, could you come? We'll see you once a month. Was that your addiction? I was like that. Do you know what I mean? And I'll be coming out, writing a list, all these houses I've picked up, and for years, mate, and everything I had, I built up from door knocking and canvassing. Do you know what I mean? I feel like in that early, that was I think I was addicted to that. Right. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that was my addiction then. Yeah, I feel like I've always been addicted to things. But I didn't know it then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Until the latter part of my life and stuff like that. Yeah.
So the football thing didn't work out. Obviously, you and I played together, and you were a super talented footballer. What then happened? What was the bit then after that? What did you do? How did the business grow? What was that journey?
Well, just before that, and just going back quickly, when I moved in with my best pals, mum and dad, they basically fostered me so I could go and live with them. I've been he's been my best friend since I was like that, you know. But a year and a half in, his dad then died. So as a kid, I thought it was all me. Do you know what I mean? I thought I blame myself. I thought if I didn't live here, he'd be alive now.
Really?
That's how I used to think. I didn't feel like I could sit in their lounge.
Really?
I spent most of my time alone in my bedroom. Do you know what I mean? I just felt like it was all my fault. And again, just going back to football, I think that's why the football saved it. Do you know what I mean? It saved me, and it gave me something to, like, later on in life, the drugs numbed me from all the pain I was suffering. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like the football done that.
Yep.
Then when I got to early 20s, I think 19, 20, I set up Shrine Assured.
Yep.
I was playing part-time football at the time at Each in Town with you. And yeah, I basically, obviously, there was some long-distance games and things like that. And I fell into it, really. Someone I knew needed someone to give me a hand, so I jumped and I just loved it. I could work when I wanted, I could have a day off when I wanted to go and play football. After I'd been working for a little while, I just started asking him, like, how much is this house? How much is that house? And blah, blah, blah. And I started adding things up in my head, working out what he's paying me, whatever. And I thought I could do this. And so I just went door knocking. Honestly, God, this is a God's honest truth. I used to borrow it. So I was door knocked just around my little area to start with. And this was in the old, like, back between 2003, 2005. It's where it's all done the old fashioned way, traditionally. And I'd built up a little bit of work, but I was getting my little bit of money from my day rate from him, and I just wanted to top it up. So he'd drop me home at like 2, 3 o'clock, and I'd borrow his ladder, I'd take this, and I'd walk 15 minutes to a house to go. Do you know what I mean? And I was just addicted. I just wanted that. I wanted a bit more money. I wanted more money. And then it just kind of, where I was door knocking every night. I was getting friends to come out door knocking me. They was earning a fortune. I used to say to them, if you knock on a door and they want it cleaned and it's 10, 15, 20 quid, you've earned 10, 15. So they just, honestly, when we hit an area where there was no one, we couldn't stop knocking.
Old school.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Old school.
And yeah, so I built it all up from that. And I had a nice life from it, mate. Do you know what I mean? It put the butter on the bread is what I say. But I enjoyed my life. I was happy. My friend at that time, I don't know, I was young then, but my friends were doing apprenticeships. Yeah. So I don't know, 100, 150 quid a week, and I always had I always had money then as well. Do you know what I mean? Because I was slowly building up this business, and it turned into, I ended up with 4 or 5 vans on the road. Do you know what I mean? And it was all just from knocking on doors and then word of mouth. You know,
interesting.
So
that addiction's taking you to a good place. Okay. So what happened then? What was the next phase?
I then set up. I then set up the events company, like Ultimate Party.
Why did you do that?
So basically, I was single at the time, and I started meeting up with some old football friends, and started going out a bit more. And there was a lad that I used to play football with, and he was doing these events, but not around my area. And I remember just going to one of his events one day and looking at him thinking, you've got some nice little life you got here, mate. Do you know what I mean? And then I went one night, totally random, really. Me and a few of our pals, you know, like you'd book a table to go to a nightclub. And so there's 8 of us, 10 of us, whatever, we put to go to this event in this nightclub, Mantra in where it was. Yeah. And we turned up and there was not one person in there. Not one. So I don't know what the table was, but spent all this money. the owners come out and said, look, guys, we're really sorry, but we're going to give you a night. You can come back to our busiest night, and it's this night on this date. You can have that table for that night. Anyway, and then I just said to him, I bullshitted him really. I just said to him, I said I could throw a party and get more people in here than this. And he said, really? And I told him that I bullshitted him a little. I told him that I was doing them anyway with my mate. So I told him all about my mate's thing, made it sound like I was involved in that. Yeah. And made it sound like I was involved in that. Texted him, said if this guy contacts you, and I've moved back this way now. Yeah. And the guy said to me, come on in. And I was meeting up with him. And he said, what's your brand? And I went home that night, come out of Ultimate Parties.
Class.
Got a logo. And I put this brand together and I put this event on. And it's the busiest night I'd had in about a year and a half. Right. We had about 900 people through the door in total. I think it held 900. Over the course of the night, we had 900 people through the door. I remember my sister saying to me, why are you doing this? How are you going to make any money? She didn't understand. And the gist of it was that so they take all the bar money. Yeah. And we would take the door money.
What sort of money were you making a night?
$9,000.
What, in one night?
One night, yeah. And the first party I threw, I walked out with $9,000 cash in a Tesco's carrier bag.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's what I mean. And I didn't really know how it was going to go. Do you know what I mean? But it was packed. It was round, and the door took. We ended up taking a bit more than that because we got a commission on the table sales and things like that. Yeah. So after I paid DJs and things like that, I remember walking out and I had £9,000 in cash.
Were you buzzing?
I was flying, mate.
Really?
Like an addict, mate. I was like, I couldn't wait to do the next one.
Really?
Right? But I had to give him a cut of, so we took a bit more than that because I had to pay the DJs, and then he wanted a higher fee for the venue. Yeah. And then, and I hadn't even got out of Ware High Street, and he's ringing me up saying, we need to do another one. Yeah. He said, listen, we'll do the same deal because there was a higher fee for the venue. I can't remember what it was, 1,500 quid or something. And I just remember then, I don't know where it come to me. I said, yeah, okay, I'll do another one, but I'm not paying you an higher fee. Mm. I knew that he'd had it off on that bar. His bar probably took 70 grand that night.
Crazy.
Do you know what I mean? And
it's interesting that you intuitively,
I'll do it. But now you do it on my terms. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I've proved that I can do. I've proved to you that I can fill your venue. Yeah. And I wanted something back. So I said, yeah, I'll do another one, but I'm not going to give you a high fee. And he just went, okay. And so I'd done another one there. And then, and it went pretty quickly. Within the space of about 2 months, I remember where I was. I was walking around St Albans. It was on a Saturday. I was walking around St Albans. And I was going shopping to go out that night, and I remember I just got this random phone call, and this guy rang me up, and he was just like, "Oh, no, is that Ryan Jenner from Ultimate Parties?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "It's Mick Norcross from the Sugar Up group. I hear you've been throwing some parties round Hertfordshire. We're opening up a Sugar Hut in Hertford."
Talk about Sugar Hut, so explain to everybody what that is. And
so it was obviously The Only Way is Essex. It was a nightclub owned by Mick, and obviously in the height of Only Way is Essex, it was flying. It was doing silly numbers, taking silly money, and he opened up another one in Hertford, a lot smaller venue, and I didn't know him. I didn't know him at all, but I think, how has he found out who I am and then got my number and all this? And so I got this phone call, and he said, look, we're doing a soft opening on Thursday. I'd like to invite you and a couple of your pals. I'd like to meet you and have a chat with you. So I went down there with just me and one of my pals went, and we was in there, we was having a chat, and we just got on like that. Do you know what I mean? We got on really well. And I remember we went up to his office to have a chat, and I'd only met him 2 hours before, and he just said, listen, right, I see you where you are around a club, way with everyone. I want you to come work for me. And I was like, right, I think, anyway, his venue only held 250 people. I wanted venues holding 800-900 people. Do you know what I mean? Because of the numbers through the door and the money you could make. I remember, like, I've seen him on the show and stuff, and I remember thinking, but I just said to him, I said, but Mick, I can't do the numbers here. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so he said to me, look, I want you to run the whole of this half. I want you to run every night here. So instead of you doing one ultimate parties at that nightclub once a month or every other week, he said, I'll give you every single Friday and Saturday. You can have a cut of the bar and you take the door money. You can have a cut of the bar and you can take the table sales. And I was still in my head thinking, I hadn't made a decision. And then he just took his watch off. Like, I remember a Cartier Santos Rose Gold it was. He just took his watch off.
How much are they? What are they?
I think it was about 18 grand at the time. And he just put it on my wrist, said, it's yours. And I was like, what? And he just, listen, he was amazing. He was amazing. But he just put it on my wrist. He said, Ryan, that's yours. I want you to come work for me.
Wasn't there a bit more to the story?
Yeah, he said, right, that's yours. I want you to come work for me. The owners of that club down the road will never be able to do that for you. And I thought, fucking, it was just powerful. Do you know what I mean? I thought, wow. And so, yeah, I was...
Didn't he pin you up against the wall? As well?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, well, yeah. Because I hadn't made the decision, he kind of, like, put me up against the wall a bit and said, look, I want you to come work for me. They won't be able to do that for you. And I was just like... And then, yeah, I drove then to Brentwood about a week later. I thought about it. I was speaking to my sister about it, and I thought for my own brand as well, it'd be good. So I was basically running in-house nights for them every week. Ultimate Parties was there the first Saturday in a month, and it was good for my brand. And yeah, I ended up moving to Brentwood in the end.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I lived in Brentwood for about a year and a half, and right next to the club, I had a lovely little apartment there.
What sort of money were you making on a night then?
Meals, I was, not for ego or anything like that, but I wouldn't have what I got today if it weren't for the events. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was doing silly numbers, mate. It died down towards the end, because clubs were closing and it become late night bars. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And because there weren't as many clubs around, you didn't have as much.
But in the height though, mate, stop being on.
Yeah, because I was making 8-10 grand a party. And then it would go down a little bit as the years went on. It was, yes, between 5 and 7 grand, something like that.
And multiple parties?
Yeah, I was at one point, I was probably doing 4 events a week.
What?
Not that I would, but then there would be a deal cut there if I was doing 4 events. Do you know what I mean? So I'd be creating in-house nights for people, but one of the main nights would be my night, and that's where I'd take the full door. And then I'd have a percent of the door, percent of tables, percent of the door. And I had a night, I had it very good, do you know what I mean? Towards the end, that kind of stopped, and that's where I kind of dipped out. I didn't want to be the old man in the club.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be 40 years old in the club, do you know what I mean? And
talk to us about some of the, because when we spoke on the phone, you were sort of saying about some of the things that went on. So talk to us about that. And
yeah, just obviously I made a lot of friends. There's a lot of Mick Norcross. I love the guy. He was amazing to me. Just the way he carried himself. I just used to look at him like he was just amazing at what he'd done. There was another club I worked at in Hartford called Cinnabar, and they just let me have the reins. Do you know what I mean? Like their club, it weren't busy. They let me have the reins, and it gave me that, like, I was about to do what I wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I'd have events on in Hartford, events on in Essex, all on the same night. I'd be at that one till that time, then I'd shoot to that one. So sometimes I was doing 2 events in the night and stuff like that. And obviously booking DJs, I met some amazing people. There's a lot in the club owners as well. There's also club owners that I thought I couldn't stand, but they had the venue that I needed to work at. But it's a funny old world that there's like ex-pop stars or people like that, I'll say. I can't name names.
Yeah.
But obviously, with the nightlife comes drugs. I had to know all the drug dealers well because I couldn't really let them in the vent. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of, and but at the flip side of that, all the artists wanted drugs. Do you know what I mean? So like, I remember there was one guy in particular who everyone will know. Everyone will know him, and very famous. And he started doing DJing, and I think he had a couple of events booked that night. So I think he was like £1,000 for an hour, right? He wanted £1,000. I think he had one night he had like three venues on the go. He wanted an ounce of cocaine from us. He didn't want his money. He was getting a grand from that one, and that's what like.
That's what it's like.
Yeah, it's like that. There was drugs everywhere, and I was using drugs, but I weren't in my active addiction then. I don't know. I could have. I think back now. I think, how did I not go
how did you,
then? Yeah. I remember working at Sugar Up. I remember being in the office on a Friday. I ended up giving Mick Norcross his watch back after this, and for his 50th birthday, he invited me and a few of my pals down to his birthday. And I had the watch. He'd given me. I couldn't believe. Do you know what I mean? Some days I was just sitting on my windowsill while I was going out cleaning windows because I had lads working for me, but I was still trying to. If one of them had a day off, I'd go and. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But one day I was in the office on a Friday getting ready for the evening to open up and that. And I was just going through all like tables and what had been booked. And I had a phone call and it was some guy I didn't know who it was, still don't know who it was today, but he answered the phone. I was like, hello, Ryan from Sugar at Hartford. And he just went, I'm coming down tonight. I want 12 grand. I'm going to shoot you in the kneecaps. Yeah. Oh. And I thought, this is what. So I phoned Mick and he was just like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry, I know it is. And he rang back an hour later and he's like, right, there's 2 guys coming down tonight. They're going to be there before the opening. Just let them in. They're just going to sit in the club all night. And I thought, fuck me, I mean, this is the life. And then.
So the 2 guys were there.
Sat there. They were just.
Minding
everything. Obviously, we had the bouncers, but they were there ready in case anyone turned up. But no one did. No one. But. So I was threatening to be kneecaps blown off.
Why?
I know stuff that happened I'm not going to name the clubs and that, but I remember doing an event in a nightclub in Essex. I sat downstairs in the office doing some drugs with the owner. I remember he's walked down into his office, he's gone up into, them little plastic, little square ceilings. Like, yeah. Popped one open, pulled all the drugs out. And then next thing you know, bouncer has hit someone he shouldn't have, who's related to someone, and next thing you know, that bouncer was never seen again. He couldn't come back and work on the door. A lot of club owners, it didn't happen in Hartford, it weren't like that. At Cinnabar, it wasn't like that, but in other places I've worked, they were paying people to keep them safe, basically. Right. Do you know what I mean? And when that happened about I thought then, I can't be doing this for... Do you know what I mean? And I remember going to Mick's birthday, I'll give him a watch back, and I thought, I've got no come back there.
He had that over you.
I felt like it, yeah. I felt like he had something over me that I had sure. But he would listen, Mick. I don't like to say it like that because I never felt that at the time. But in just like if ever anything or someone wanted something, they might know I've got something to mix. Do you know what I mean? And so. But yeah, he taught me so much, mate. I learned so much from him in business in general. Do you know what I mean? And then I led on to take over this venue in Hartford. I had a phone call one night I just got a phone call out of the blue. I tell you what, we was coming towards the end. The guy that always used my DJ, I brought him on board as like, he kind of come in with me and so he was helping me run the events and stuff. And I remember it was getting to the point where a lot of venues were closing down. So Mantra, that I threw my first party at, had gone. Yeah. All these venues that were closing down. And we had really nowhere else to go. Although we was throwing these amazing parties and I was doing nice numbers and things like that, club owners still want to try and do it themselves because they want it all. Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? And there was nowhere really else to go, and we didn't have a party lined up. We was thinking, me and Luke Welsh's name is, we was like, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to do. And then just one day, this phone call from this guy who owned Cinnabar in Hartford, and it's a lovely venue. It's about, I think it holds 500 max. Perfect layout at the top, mezzanine and all that. And he just rang me one day and he said, look, I've seen everything you're doing. We're not busy. Do you think you could do something at the venue? So I was like, I'll come and have a look. And I would, whenever I was going to look at a venue, I was going to do a party, I'd always go around, I'd always turn up at that venue on a Saturday night between 11 and 12. That's when it should be at its busiest. And so I walked into this venue on this Saturday night, and there was 2 people in there at midnight drinking a bottle of wine, 2 women. There's no one in there, right? Crazy. Not one person. Just these 2 people, sorry. There was no photographer, so no one knew these 2 beautiful girls are in there. And I just looked around the venue, I thought, this could be amazing. And so I phoned him the next day and I said, look, I can, but like, we got to go big. We need to DJ lineups, because for me to throw a party, it's going to cost me $1,000. Do you know what I mean? With DJ lineups and things like that, minimum. So I was going there every Friday and Saturday for about a month. We booked in for Ultimate Parties to do an event, and I said, look, I need a month's build up to this. I've got to try and make it look like it's busy in here. Yeah. So I was going there when it was dead, making out it was busy. Do you know what I mean? And making these snippets when people were all close together. It was dead in there.
Really? Good marks and that.
Right, it was dead. And that was in 2014, and I had that venue till 2018. It was hard work, but it was queuing for miles. Really? And all the way down the street, there'd be queues on a Saturday. Fridays were hard, but they got busier. Saturdays it was, and we turned it up. But I remember when I threw my first Ultimate Parties, no one knew where it was. So people weren't going. That's what I'm saying. People weren't going. People were messaging me from the car park, which was a stone's throw away, asking for the postcode so they could walk to it. And then it was the place to be in Hartford for about 4 years, and I was doing that. I run that venue every Friday, Saturday night. Then they opened up another one. I've done that for them. So I was doing 4 events a week for them, plus my Ultimate Parties at their venue on the first Saturday in a month, plus my Ultimate Parties at all other venues around Essex. And yeah, it was good fun.
What sort of money were you making from that one?
From Cinnabar? Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. When I was making all the money making the money I was making in the start, I was spending a lot of money as well, though, because it was new, you know, like in those. When I got to Cinnabar, I actually took things a lot more seriously. Like, before I'd be drinking at most of my parties or events, I weren't really drinking. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? I knew that it was the most money I'd ever. When I went to Cinnabar and I had Cinnabar and Arts, I was earning the most money I've ever earned in my life. I was doing silly numbers. But their bar, I remember there was I can't remember her name now because they went for a few different managers. But I remember 3 months in, about 3 months, starting in August, September, about the October, the manager of the venue, the way it was the owner of the venue told everyone who works in the venue and the manager that when I walked in, like, it's on Ryan's terms, right? But he also didn't want them telling me anything about what the bar takes and things like that, because he didn't want me, because do you know what I mean? Everyone wants to negotiate something, a cut the bar or something. But I got so friendly with it, I knew everything. I knew everything what the bar was taking, because I was the one in the venue. Yeah. Everyone trusted me. They weren't there. Do you know what I mean? And they're great people. And I'm grateful that they just let me have the run of that venue. Do you know what I mean? And I remember the lady come up to me, Anta, I think her name was. She come up to me and she said, Ryan, this venue, you've been here 3 months, and I've been here a year and a half or something, and this is the first month this venue's ever made a profit. It just weren't. And we got it to a point where I know they was taking on a Saturday night between 40 and 70 grand. Some not, if it's a bit, do you know what I mean? Yeah. A night there's big money in that, but there's less and less places now, and there's more late night bars where a lot of people would try and do it themselves. But I never wanted to be that old man in the club. And in 2018, I was having people contact me to open up my own venue.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the route I wanted to go down. And then 2017, Christmas time, 23rd December, my brother passed away. He had a cleaning company like mine. And I wanted to dip out of what I was doing. It was great fun. I had a great time and it's some great money doing it. But it's hard work.
Yeah.
Your phone don't stop. I was going to, I met my now wife, and I was going out with her for meals with other people and having to leave her there while I go to the venue. Right. And I just over time, after a while of doing that, but listen, don't get me wrong, during the week, I could be anywhere in the world. I could go on holiday, people didn't even know where we were sometimes. I'd be away, but making out I'm still going to be at the venue Friday because I'm promising people, oh, you got a comp on the door, I've got a bottle of champagne. Do you know what I mean? So I'm up, but we had a nice, like, from Sunday I would shut down, I'd just do bits on my phone, but it was just relentless, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I knew I wanted to dip out. I wanted to open up my own venue. That was what I wanted to do. But that 2017, my brother passed away. I then come up with the idea of, I took over his business.
Yeah.
And I incorporated it into mine and just made it as one. And then I stepped away from the clubs. But in the back of my mind thinking, looking for venues one day. Yeah. Because I was done with being at the venue all the time and stuff like that. And then a year had passed and then COVID hit. So I was glad I never did, really.
Yeah. Sorry, just come back to you. How did your brother die? Can you talk about that?
So my brother, bless him, he done what I did, and he was building his business at the time and stuff like that, and he was doing window cleaning. He was window cleaning, so he was out in the cold all day and blah blah. And he just had a cold, left it, didn't do nothing about it, got worse, and. One day he, after a few days or a week passed, he went to the doctors and the doctor said, he was like bedbound and shivering about it. The doctor said, you haven't got a cold, you've got severe pneumonia. If he had just gone to the hospital, the doctor, do you know what I mean? They said, you've got severe pneumonia, he's blue lighted to hospital. And within 8 hours, he caught sepsis and died. And that is where my using started more, really, because I got a lot of guilt around that, really, because my brother Rob, I remember him ringing me up, and I, like, if my family are ill, you can understand why they won't tell me they're not well, because do you know what I mean? I can't deal. I'll straight away I'll worry. Yeah. But my brother Rob phoned me. I was at home. Me and my wife had just bought a flat, sort of Cheshunt way, and was getting ready for Christmas. And my brother Rob phoned me, and he said, "Right, look, just to let you know, Mark's in hospital. He's had a bit of a cold. They're in hospital looking over him. He's going to be all right." He said he was in intensive care, but it didn't hit me how important. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, but my brother just made me feel like it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I said to him, should I come down? Do you want me to come to the hospital now? And blah, blah. And he's like, no, it's fine. I'll ring you if I need you. But we arranged I'd go down in the morning. And he didn't make it for us till the morning. And
how old is he, mate?
44. I've got so much guilt around not just going. Because if it was the other way around, he'd have left anything he was doing and I just didn't think. I thought I'd go there in the morning and I didn't even have my phone on loud. I've just been told my brother's in hospital in intensive care. And I woke up in the morning, realised my phone had still been on silent and I had about 8 missed calls. And I just looked at my wife, I was screaming. I couldn't even ring my brother. I was just screaming. I ran into the living room. I started smashing up the living room, and that guilt I carried, I used more on that, do you know what I mean? And that was when I fell into, that wasn't when I fell into my addiction, but well, it was really, that was the very early stages, because I'd use, when I was throwing parties now and again.
Cocaine.
I was using cocaine, but not all the time. And then when that happened with my brother Mark, I found myself picking up any time I went out, I'd use probably pretty much. And I found myself having a bad day. I'd pick up, go home, and I just found myself using a bit more. And then that was when it really progressed sort of after that, but slowly.
Right.
It weren't like...
Creep up on you.
My using in the end was... I was a daily user in the end, every day of the week. Let's say every day of the week. The only days I didn't use was sort of weekend, unless I worked. It's mad, because most people would go out at the weekends and use. But I had people out working for me with Shine Assured, and I could get away with using a bit then, but it was when, like, I'd just leave the house, and when I was alone and I started feeling like guilty towards my brother. I remember I then would think back. I remember, like, obviously it was coming up to Christmas. We was arranging, I couldn't see him Christmas Day, but we was arranging something. But then I'd just moved into this flat and we was having builders there, and I was really short of him on the phone. I just got all this,
remembering all that stuff,
like that feeling in my, and I just had to, and the only thing that took that away was doing drugs.
How much were you doing on a daily?
Towards the end?
Yeah.
It depends, but I had three people I'd go to. I was using, on average, between 3 and 6 grams a day. So I was doing between £200 and £400 a day. My clean and sober date's 18th of June 2024. From January 24 to the 18th of June 24, I've done, in that, to get some kind of context on my using.
Yeah.
I've done £13,000 on cocaine alone in that time. So if you had that over a year, I'd been 26 grand.
Crazy.
It was just progressive from when my brother, from then, and then we moved out the flat. We bought a house that we're living in now. And for me, I love where I am. It's what I've always wanted. We were trying for a baby. Again, I weren't using like drugs in active addiction or anything. I'd use them for when out with my pals, or now and again. Or if I'd had a bad day, it was like the thing that just numbed me. And we was trying for a baby, trying to fall pregnant, couldn't fall pregnant for about 2 years. We ended up going down the IVF route. And thankfully, fell pregnant first time, and blessed for my little daughter now, Rosie. Just before Rosie come along, we'd moved into this new house, and my life was what I always wanted. At that moment, to be in the house that I knew I got a lot of potential in that house, I could do up, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of land that I could build another house or another 2 houses in. My wife was pregnant. Work was going all right. I was using a little bit, but there weren't no serious problems. And when Rosie come along, it was the best thing in the world. And what I now know through being in recovery is it brought up when Rosie hit a year, 14 months. There's so many people back home that don't know this story as well. And I've kept it quite private because it's been a hard journey, do you know what I mean? Especially for my wife. She's the one that I caused a lot of fucking, do you know what I mean? And but when Rosie got to about a year, 14 months, and she just become that character, do you know what I mean? Like, she is hilarious. And it just hit me that my parents are never going to meet her. She weren't going to know my mum and dad and then Hannah Granddad. And that was when, I don't know, that was when my using just went off. And I got obviously I got a lot of guilt around that. I can't even really look at a picture of her in the first year of her life, really, about I just know how ill I was. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's an illness, this addiction. And before, I just thought I was making a choice to go and pick up, but I was ill at my lowest, and I never thought I would be that person. Do you know what I mean? I never thought cocaine would take me to where it did, but the lowest point for me was when my wife kicked me out. Again, people don't even know I'm living at home. And she confronted me one day, she's about taking drugs, and I admitted it. And then she told me to go.
How did you keep it from her?
I'll now speak a bit openly about my addiction and my trouble and the stuff I've been through. Because, mate, that's what an addict does, mate. I could use all that. My body becomes so immune to coke and so used to having cocaine, I could use so much more than the average person before it took an effect on me. Do you know what I mean? And I would, towards the end, I was going out every day, and this is what she feels silly that she didn't know.
Right.
But I think in the back of her head, deep down, she might have had an idea something went right, but I would never have admitted it. Do you know what I mean?
Why did you admit it then?
Because about a week, maybe not even that, maybe 4 days before that, I was sat. She didn't even notice at the time. I knew my cocaine had such a hold on me. I never thought I was going to be able to stop. I thought I was going to die in addict. Right. There's a guy in my home group. I go to CA, obviously, and I'm 10 meetings in
CA, just
Cocaine Anonymous.
Yeah.
And there's a guy in there, Manchester, Tom. He's 27 years clean and sober, still doing the do at the meetings every week. He's amazing. When he talks, I can't help but just listen, you know. And he said something once a few weeks ago. Obviously, when you go into CA and you're new, you get your newcomer chip. When you've got a week's clean time, you get your week clean time in 30 days and blah, blah. And he just said that, and it just hit me. He said, when we all first come in here, we all know when we're in our first 90 days because we're starting this new journey, we're getting our chips along the way and blah, blah. He said, but no one knows when we're in our last 90 days, right? Of you like, because you could go out and use it any time. It's just that when that comes on you, and I have to manage it every day. Right. You know what I mean? Still today, yeah, I still do things. Listen, it's very rare but it's still there.
Because you were saying earlier, every time...
Yeah, there was a little bit of white fluff there. I have to get it off. It just reminds me.
Crazy. And you don't even think about that. No. Sorry. Talk about Manchester Tom.
So Manchester Tom, when he said that, it hit me because in the end, when I owned up to my wife, because she asked, have I done drugs? And I honestly think at that point, I was in my last 90 days of living.
Oh, really?
I honestly believe that. About a few days, I never knew until I come into recovery that alcohol is a sevenfold illness. Don't know if you know anything about this.
Right.
Alcohol is sevenfold illness. So if listen, the more drink or drugs you do, you just get down and depressed. I felt like shit every day. I felt like a terrible dad, terrible husband. Weren't doing nothing around the house. Lying to my wife, telling her, hadn't even worked all day. But 10 hours I'm working, job's gone wrong, I've got to stay late. I'm just sniffing drugs all down my own. So I was never present, do you know what I mean? And I honestly now look back, I think because I would come home, somehow be able to put on I was having panic attacks lying in the kitchen, lying in the lounge. Joe got away with that. It's because one of my close friends suffers with panic attacks.
Right.
So I used to make out, my heart was going and all this. And I would make out I'm having a panic attack because of the stressful work, right? And then I'd say, I've got to go up to the outhouse and I need to get some work done. I'd go up there and just use drugs all day, or for the rest of to the evening, till 2 a.m. And I just couldn't stop. But while I'm up there, my wife and daughter in bed in the house, I'm on the phones, I'm ringing the Samaritans every day. I'm pretending I'm working on the phone. I don't want to live, but I don't want to do anything about it. I don't want to kill myself. Too scared to do anything about it. Sorry, and that's where I was going, and I was using more and more my head. I felt like I had a bricklayer laying bricks in my head every day. Just I couldn't function, and. Like I say, for me, the lowest point was when my wife kicked me out because I was out of the family home. I weren't seeing my daughter. But a few days before that, when I owned up to it, like I said, I think I was in my last 90 days of living because I remember picking up some drugs. I think I don't want to be here anymore. And I went into B&Q and bought a rope, right? Mm. And I had this rope in my van and I just drove and drove for ages. And I parked up in a woods on the side of a road I was thinking, I just don't want to be here. I was looking at pictures of my wife. pictures of my daughter, thinking, I'm a shit dad, they're better off without me. And that's what the drugs does to you. Like I said, sorry, I missed that out.
No.
The alcohol being a sevenfold illness.
Yes.
So if you're having the thoughts like I was thinking, I'm a shit dad, I'm a terrible husband, I'm not present, they're better off without me. Within a 48-hour period of drinking alcohol, if you think like that, it's called a sevenfold illness. You're 7 times more likely to act on those thoughts.
Yeah.
And cocaine is a 16-fold illness. So having thoughts like that, you're 16 times more likely within a 48-hour period to act on those. That's why you hear when celebrities or, do you know what I mean, they've usually had something in their system, whether it's alcohol or... If they hadn't had that, they'd be thinking straight.
Yeah.
But I was like that every day. And it takes a toll, and it just ate away at me. And I remember I was just sat on the side of this road. Would I have done anything? I couldn't tell you. But the fact I bought a rope, I sat in my van.
There was intention there.
There's intention, yeah. I bought a rope, I sat in the van, I got drugs all over my van. I'm looking at those pictures, and I just I was thinking, I'll wait till it gets dark. And then I believe it was like a God moment, because I believed that it could have been then that 16-fold illness would have kicked in. If I'd have kept you, stayed there a bit longer, used a bit more, would I have fucking gone up into and done? But I was in the middle of nowhere. No one I knew me around this neck of the woods. I was far away. And after about an hour, it must have got to about 5 o'clock then, people on their way for it. Someone I knew drove past me. And I shit myself. I thought he bibbed me, saw me, bibbed me. And I thought he's going to turn around and come see me. I got drugs everywhere, got a fucking rope right next to me, and I just drove off. I just drove home. And I don't know what would have happened. And I can't believe I got to that. Do you know what I mean? Because my life today, I just can't believe, but that is what addiction does. And crazy thing, obviously I had to, when in recovery, you go through a 12-step program. Part of that 12 steps is making amends to people that you've caused hurt and harms. And when I come into CA, I was near on £90,000 in debt.
Really? I didn't know that.
Near on £90,000 in debt. If it weren't for my sister, my brother-in-law, and my wife's mum and dad, my house would have gone. I've managed to pay, I can honestly say, again, not out of ego, I don't want to, I've paid everyone back today. I don't owe a penny to anyone.
On drugs and...
Not all of it on drugs. My last 6 months of using, I've done 13 grand straight on drugs. That was, the rest of it was a lot of drugs. And when I first went to my house, I was doing my house up a bit.
Yeah.
But then there was obviously using, and my wife didn't know any of that. So then not only did I have to tell my wife I'm an addict, I've been using drugs every day of the week, I had to tell her about all the debt I was in. It broke her, mate. Do you know what I mean? And it was a long, hard to get her trust back. Do you know what I mean? And listen, when I was doing all the parties, mate, I had everything. I could go anywhere I wanted, go on any holiday I wanted. I had a Rolex on my wrist, and I thought that was all important. That Rolex had to go. I had to pay my debts off, mate. Do you know what I mean? I had to sell some of my business. But today, the only debt I've got is my mortgage. You know what I mean? I've paid my sister and brother-in-law back. I've paid her mum and dad back. I don't have any debt today, and I don't drink or take drugs. I can go to work. I'm there for my wife, my daughter. It's been hard, and even in recovery, it's not been easy. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, I still fight with it. I don't fight with it today. The urge for me to use drugs is no longer there. The obsession for me to use drugs is gone. But I could, prior, it was just on my mind 24/7. But the obsession to use drugs now has been removed. But there's times, I went to a party the other week. My wife's there, my daughter's there. It was like started out sort of about 5 PM, so the kids were there. And obviously like bedtime and stuff. So my wife took my little girl home. And I've walked them out, given them a kiss, said night to Rosie and Daddy be home and see you in the morning. And as soon as they've gone, I've walked into a party and my head's gone, one's going to be all right. Oh. Just want to be all right. No one to know. And what I didn't have before and what I've got in recovery, I call it ring the healer, not the dealer. I've got someone who sponsors me and takes me through the program. And I can ring him when those urges come. And he just makes me feel 10 times better. And with that, I've walked back into the party. I've gone into the toilet, and I've just sat down and done a little prayer to stay clean and sober one more time. And I didn't use, and that's what I do. I've got tools today that stop me using. You know what I mean? I didn't have them tools before. So yeah, but it hasn't been easy. Listen, you've heard like I've lost my parents and my brother. 10 months into recovery. Well, yeah, 10 months into recovery, my brother Rob died. Do you know what? I can honestly say, I think for most addicts, the first thought would be, I'm going to meet the dealer. And I didn't have that. It was like, again? And I sort of like, fuck it, again? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was crying, I was upset, but I didn't think it weren't until my sister said to me, this is going to be a test for you, right? You need to. And it was. But I just think for the fellowship, the CA and my sponsor and everyone I've got around me now, it's just life-changing, mate. My life, to not be in debt for the amount of debt I had 18 months ago, to now to be out of debt, I've just bought a new car, we can go on holiday. Everything I wanted, I didn't think it was ever coming back, mate. I never thought it was coming back. And I remember going to my first ever meeting. Do you know what as well? I forgot to say, my brother-in-law, when my addiction was bad, my brother-in-law was the only one that ever used to say to me, are you on drugs? He knew. He used to say to me, he's the only one, are you on drugs? I'm like, no. My wife had kicked me out. I thought I was, like I said, I thought it was in my last 90 days living. I didn't know what I was going to do. For some reason, I remember I was parked up. And I just wanted to fucking drive into a wall. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to drive off a bridge or something. And I just remember just ringing him. I just remembered he used to say that to me. He'd say, are you on drugs? And I phoned him. And I like kind of reached out. Do you know what I mean? Like I do I just phoned him, and I thought he was the only one that I could be honest with at that point, you know? And I just said, listen, I've been doing a lot. You've been asking, I've been doing a lot of drugs, and told him about the debt, told him about, I just couldn't stop, mate, do you know what I mean? And I just broke down to him. And I just remember him saying, take your time, mate. I just remember him saying to me, right, it's going to be all right, mate, we can get through this. But I just didn't think I could, do you know what I mean? And he said, listen, I'm going to put the phone down. Stay where you are, don't do anything stupid. I'm going to make a phone call. And he rang me about a couple of minutes later. And it was a lady that rang me up that he knew. And she was actually a cocaine addict. She was 7 years clean and sober. And he basically rang me up and said, look, I can't remember her name now, but he said, this lady's going to ring you. Just answer the phone, just have a chat with her. And she rang me, and she just asked me. She just asked me what my using was like, how often was I using, and within 1 minute, she just said to me, "You need to start going to, you need to go to a meeting tonight." And she just said to me, "I'll come and meet you, and I'll take you to a meeting." And I was like, "No, I'm all right." Like, Paul's told me, my brother-in-law's told me to go to his house. We're going to go there. I'm thinking I could do it myself. Still thinking I could do it myself. Yeah. And anyway, got to my sister's, and my brother-in-law persuaded me to go to this meeting. I'd been crying all day. And I went to the meeting and sat round in a big room. There's obviously two people at this. Well, someone who leads the meeting, someone doing a share. And I remember going around the room. I was just thinking, oh my God. And I remember going around the room. Everyone's introduced themselves. Hi, I'm Colin. I'm an addict. Hi, I'm all right. It got to me. And still, I mean, I'm sitting in CA, lost everything. And I remember saying, "Hi, I'm Ryan. I think I might be an addict." Still not ready to own up to, do you know what I mean? That I think I'm an addict. And they must be looking at me thinking, "You're here for a reason, mate." Do you know what I mean? And yeah, and you know what? I remember sitting in that chair, my head in my hands, not wanting to look at anyone. Thinking I didn't want to be here. Truth be told, at that time, I probably didn't even want to get completely clean. I just wanted to be able to use once a week, like a normal person. But I quickly saw people in there that were very happy and looked like they had a very nice life with everything. I remember there's a guy there, he won't mind if I mention him, he's come a bit of a friend to me now. In Lamborghini Marco, because he drives Lamborghini. I remember him getting out his Lamborghini. He's like 3-4 years clean, getting out something. I think, what are you doing here? You've got no problems. Do you know what I mean? You look like he was happy as Larry, but he's had it. He lost everything and he's now successful. And anyway, I remember I was having my head in my hands, and then the guy started sharing his story. Everything he was saying was me. And all of a sudden, I just sat back in the chair. I'm looking at him, started listening. I just thought, this is where I need to be. And the beauty, like now, listen, I still carry a lot of guilt to my daughter, to my wife, for everything I've done, for not really being there like I wish, like I am now. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm present now every day. I can do anything. I do everything for my wife and for my daughter. But I know I need to stay in CA. Do you know what I mean? I know I've crossed that line of active addiction. And like now my daughter, bless her, like I was a shit dad, mate. On the outside, people, I loved her to bits, but I weren't helping me. I weren't being a dad. I was just out the house, and do you know what I mean? But when I try and, I look at myself now, I'm a dad. She said to me, I tell her, so when I go to my meetings, I tell her I go daddy school. Right. So she also goes to nursery. She's got a little picture of a dog on her uniform, so she calls it doggy school. So now I tell her that when I go out, she's obviously crying that I've got to leave when I'm getting ready to go out of an evening. And I said, like, Daddy's going to daddy school. And at first she said, "Why you go daddy school, Daddy?" And I said, "'Cause to make me a better daddy," and stuff like that. And now she's crying. She tells me, "But Daddy, you're the best daddy." Yeah. But if I was not going to these meetings, she wouldn't be saying that as she grew up. For me, recovery's given me my life, give my identity back. Do you know what I mean? I'm driven again. I remember sitting down with my family. My brother-in-law's got a successful business building company. Been very successful. And do you know what? For a long time, I just didn't listen to people. I thought I'd do everything my way. I could do it when I was in my addiction, and I'll get out of it by doing this. And I started listening. And I remember him saying to me, "Listen, you can," obviously because I was like this, I was going to lose my house. And they, between my sister, brother-in-law, and my mother and father-in-law, they helped me out massively. And we then looked at things I had of value, like my watch and things like that I could sell to pay a bit of my debt off. And I'm lucky. I know people that come into recovery that I'd worked so hard in my younger days to build up my business that I could sell some of my business and stuff like that. But so like I say, this last year's been a reset of my business as well. But I remember thinking, I've got to go back where I had all the lads out. I've got to go back as a bit of a one-man band. And my brother-in-law was a bit like, "Look, you need to just knuckle down, concentrate on your recovery, began to work." And within 9 months being in recovery, I took on another lad again.
Back in the game.
Do you know what I mean? I live, breathe work. I just didn't care about work, mate. But jobs are coming. Like I was getting jobs coming in that I wouldn't get back to for weeks. By the time I got back to them, they've got someone else. Now I get back to everyone within like 48 hours. I feel like I'm just me again. And I'm an addict, but I'm addicted to how I feel now. I've also learned from being in CA, like There's a lot of people that come into recovery that get clean and sober. We're addicts at the end. They go on to be very successful people. And I'm hoping to be one of them. You know what I mean? I've met some and made some amazing friends from all different walks of life. Doctors, nurses, barristers, career criminals. And it's my medicine. Do you know what I mean? And it keeps me well today. I could not have come here 18 months ago, mate. I was a broken man. Do you know what I mean? But CA's changed my life and everyone's life around me. Do you know what I mean?
But there's been people that have fallen off the wagon.
Yep. There's I've been in recovery just over 17 months. It'll be 18 months on the 18th of December. But there's 3 people in my home group that are no longer here. I just go to my meetings with them, see them. They're not here today. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was a guy that 2 weeks ago, I hadn't seen him at the meeting for a couple of weeks. I feel guilty now that I didn't reach out to him, but there's, like, on my journey up here today, I've phoned up 8 addicts on my way up.
Did you really?
Do you know what I mean? Just to touch in, check in, and it was a long drive. And but there was a guy that I hadn't checked in with and hadn't seen him at the meetings, just didn't think. But other people, everyone looks out for each other in CA, do you know what I mean? And anyway, he phoned me up the other week in bits. And I was like, mate, what's happening? You right? And he's like, mate, I just and he'd OD'd. He'd done 2 weeks in hospital. He overdosed. He relapsed. And that is the thing about this addiction. I was using a lot of cocaine towards the end. I was spending $1,000 a week. Mate, it was ridiculous. And doing between 3 and 6 grams a day. And if I was generally when someone does relapse, generally what you automatically go back to your last using.
And your body's not used to it.
Yeah. So if I relapse now,
you'd be dead.
Likeliness, I'll be in hospital. I'm likeliness is I'm going to OD because I'll be in my head. My addict head will tell me. Like when I first started using drugs, I could buy a gram of gear for 50 quid, and that'd last me 3 or 4 weekends. Do you know what I mean? I'd go out, have a little bit. I'll save that for next week. That's not what I can do now. I could walk in a room and be around it now and step away. I've just come back from a golf trip. Me and my best pal and another one of our pals gone out to Murcia in Spain, walked into this bar to watch Chelsea-Liverpool game. It was dead in there. So we thought, we'll find somewhere else. Me and my best pal walked in and the other lad was outside on the phone. And it was so dead in there. So we turned around and then the owner of the club, the owner of the bar, I thought he was a bouncer, but he was behind the bar doing all the tills and everything. And he saw us leaving. He said, "Oh, lads, come back here. It'd be busy in a minute. Come back here. I've got something for you." And he pulled out, you know, like you used to go to the bank and pay your coins in with, like, put those little plastic bags, put £21, £20 coins in it, pay it in. He had one in full of cocaine. He just got a little teaspoon and went to put it on the table. 18 months ago, mate, he'd have been my best pal. And I wouldn't have left him alone. But within that split, my mate's having to drag me out. Because I was like, oh, you fucking wanker. Do you know what that does to people? And that's what I was saying now. I'm in a I'm confident around people. I've been around people that are using drugs since. I don't bother me, mate. It's some urges that if I ever get an urge, I have to control. But seeing it doesn't give me an urge. Do you know what I mean? But that's the scary thing. My last using, the way I was using towards the end, if I was to relapse, it'd probably be very scary. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
What about Shine Assured then? What's the next phase? What's the next step?
Do you know what? Funny enough,
what are you doing now? You've sorted yourself out. You're in a better place.
Yeah,
You know.
I want to get back to where I was.
Vans, team.
Yeah. I want a team of 3 or 4 vans back out.
Because you've got a good TikTok following, haven't you? You're a bit of a face on social.
Like 1 million views on TikTok.
So shout out.
Do you know
what's your handle? What's your handle?
At Shine Assured, give us a follow, please, at Shine Assured. I made mistakes. I didn't think I did at the time, but I look back now, mistakes I made. But the first thing now is to get get one more van back out on the road. Do you know what I mean? There's me, I've got a lad back with me now, and I'd like to get another lad back out in a van and just grow it like that. But you never know what's around the corner, mate. There's, again, people I've met in CA. There's a guy I met in CA who's been very, very successful in business. Very, very successful. I was doing a job for him the other day. He's become close to my, like, he turned up the other week for my daughter's 3rd birthday. He'd been to Selfridges. He turned up with a load of presents for her. Do you know what I mean? These people that I'm around now that are just nice.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So many people who are addicts and have got those issues are also.
When I first went into CA, I know we're going to talk about Shine Shore quickly, but when I first went into CA, I realised very early on that I was in CA because I hadn't dealt with a lot of stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
So I was also seeing this sort of like therapist and talking about my parents and sort of stuff. And when I was telling her about my active addiction, she turned around to me and she said something, and this just stopped me. And she said to me, I was paying her X amount of money for the hour. I don't know what it was. I can't remember. But she was like, "Ryan, you don't need me." And I said, "What?" Do you know what I mean? She said, "Ryan, I could sit here and take your money, right?" She said she'd been doing this 40 years. She said, "I've never met anyone who's had as much trauma in their life as you." Right? She said, "But you don't need me right now." And I was like, right. I was a bit shocked. She said, "I've also come across people, addicts." And she said that an addict in recovery, a recovering addict, yeah, she said a recovering addict is the nicest person I've ever met. She went, "You need to you need to stay at CA." Right. She said, "I'll always be here, but focus on you." And that's what, and I did. And it's the truth. CA saved my life. My sponsors changed my life. Do you know what I mean? I would come home from a meeting. I'll be telling my wife, "He's done this." Like, she got sick and tired of it. So I was so positive after a meeting. I've hurt her so much.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have meetings to go to. She's now married to an addict. Do you know what I mean? And she don't have meetings to keep her
sane. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was coming home, I was telling about all these people and blah, blah. And she started to meet them more now. Right, so all these people, I'm saying they're amazing. In her head, at the start, she's thinking, they're addicts. Do you know what I mean? And honestly, mate, now she's met a lot of them. And the first thing she says when we get back in the car and drive home, "Oh my God, he's so nice. Oh my God, how lovely is he?" Do you know what I mean? We're grateful to be here. I'm grateful I'm still here. And, but yeah, this, just going back to Shine Assured, and the next step for me is to get some vans back on the road and things. But then there's this guy in CA he's asked me about, he was looking at buying a cleaning business. And obviously I've been in the game for 20 years this year. I've just rebranded me low. I've just done a little, no one would know the change I've made, but I wanted a fresh start, you know, to go into 2026, you know. And but I was doing a job for him the other day, and me and him have got very close. And he's been very successful in his life, and I'm not going to give everything away because I don't want other people to jump on it if they hear it, but there's something I've been looking at doing with the cleaning, and I'll tell you more about after, but there's something I've been looking at doing. And there's only one company here doing it.
Right.
I've been talking to them, but they don't know I've been making out I'm someone else. Do you know what I mean? I've been doing a lot of investigating with them, chatting to them, and he was like, "I was looking at buying a cleaning company a little while ago and blah, blah." I said, "But I didn't really think money was in it." And then I explained to him the way it works, and he was like, "Oh, right." And I said, "But I'll be honest with you," I won't say his name, I said, "But I'll be honest with you, this is the route to go down now. This is the next big thing." And you know, like from Winnicott, it used to be the old-fashioned way, and it went reach wash, where there's
different.
Yeah, and I said, this is the thing that's coming in now. And I've been looking at it for about 6 weeks. I said to my wife, if someone gets this is going to take off. Anyway, I don't have the money to put all that up for. It's a big, big investment to do it. And I said it to him, and I hear him like very interested and listening. And the next thing you know, within that half an hour, we were addicts, right? So we like, within half hour, we were in his kitchen looking into it. He's made a phone call and he wants to do it.
So we're going to come back.
But going into this, I don't know if I but this company that I've then been speaking to, they're the only people here doing it that I've researched everywhere. They've just tendered, or they're Turner. He's just won all of the Centre Parks, all the Butlins, all the thing. His predicted turnover for next year, he told me, is 18 million. I surely can't jump from where I am to anywhere near that, mate. But what I'm saying is, I never thought I would be here today. Do you know what I mean? What I'm saying is, CA's give me hope, and I've got that drive back with work. And if this guy that I've got really close to believes in me, and like, I think something's just meant to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
we'll have you back. We'll have the next chapter. But listen, I guess just to wrap up, because I think it's important and it's a magnificent story. And by the way, you tell a brilliant story, mate. I mean, I've just listened for an hour and a half. But what would you say to, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there that are probably, you know, dabbling in cocaine on a weekly basis. What would you say to them?
If you think you might have a problem, you probably have.
Yeah.
I remember I would sit there Googling, am I an addict? Do you know what I mean? Of course I must be. Do you know what I mean? If you're lying about where you are and what you're doing, you start struggling to pay your bills, you've probably got a problem. Don't be scared to reach out to anyone in CA, or like, CA's changed my life. I've seen it change many other people's lives. It's hard because I was there, but don't be scared to ask someone for help. I'll be honest, now that it's getting a little bit more, there's a lot of people back where I'm from don't know everything, and it's more because I'm embarrassed more for not embarrassed for my wife, but I know she feels like how comes I didn't know type thing. But the crazy thing is now that a few people, they don't know the whole story, but they know I'm in recovery, I'm getting people contact me whose partners don't know they're contacting. Do you know what I mean? That are saying to me, I think I've got a problem.
Yeah. Well, and that's why it's so important to share.
Recovery, it changed my life, mate. It's changed my life completely.
And everybody loves a bounce back story, don't they? So
hope so.
It's I've not got a doubt, mate. I've not got a doubt.
Thank you, mate.
Sorry for all your challenges and your trauma, but equally, I think the journey you've been on has brought you to where you are today.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing the story so candidly, mate. So
no worries.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Cheers, buddy.